Wonderful. And I see Steve Wright. You have your hand raised. Did you need?
I wasn't aware.
Oh, okay, great. I just wanted to check in with you, make sure you're all right. I'll lower your hand. No problem. Are you wonderful. Well, it looks like we are at the top of the hour here. Again, if you guys don't mind, if you're not speaking, if you could practice muting and unmuting from home, it just kind of helps keep as much background noise as we can down. And I see people still introducing themselves in the chat. That's so wonderful. We're so excited you're all here and to talk about this really important issue. So just a little kickoff. Again, this is an April Peer Support Call. We are the Associations of Programs for Rural Independent Living. And we're just really excited to have you all here today. So just a couple of little reminders. You can turn your webcam on and off with that little video camera icon. And you also have control. Oh, you also have control over your own microphone. So you can press the little microphone option in order to mute yourself, or you can mute and unmute from home on the phone. You should be able to press *6. Or if you have a handy dandy mute button on your device, that works as well. If you are trying to access captioning at this time, press the CC button, and I'll throw that in the chat as well. And that will pull up those captionings for you. And if you have any trouble at all, I do have my other handy device here. And so if you can email me at Molson, molson.april@gmail.com. If you're having any troubles accessing anything, feel free to email me. I can access that and we'll try to get you in. And so with that, I just want to again remind folks, if you can keep yourself muted at home when you're not talking, it just helps with that feedback issue. And then while we're building this community, please say your name, the organization you might be with, and your city and state before you make your comment or your question, just so we can kind of get to know each other while we're working on these issues. And the nice thing about that is hopefully it turns into some nice peer support outside of these calls as well. And then, you know, just with all the peer support groups, we just want to say all questions are good questions, and just respecting that we're all at different levels of our process and of our program development. And with that, that brings us to our really important topic for today. So this actually is a little offshoot. It's not technically a rural conversation community. This is a call that April is supporting because on our last call, there was so much interest around this nursing home and institution transition. We decided to plop in an extra call just devoted to this. And so with that, I kind of want to turn it over to the group and really talking about this idea of transition during COVID-19. You know, what does that look like? What does, you know, transition from an institution look like in COVID-19 at your organization or for you? You know, do you have any questions or barriers that you would like to solution workshop with your peers? And then, you know, if you have any successful resources for direct care or housing or other useful resources for transitioning, please share them with this group so that we can continue to help more folks get out of there. And so with that, I'll see if anybody wants to jump in and just start us off, the brave soul.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So this is Brian Hollander. I'm with Independent Living Resource Center in Santa Barbara, California. We cover Santa Barbara, Ventura, and San Luis Obispo counties. And this is actually right now, nursing home transition and diversion is kind of our biggest challenge because partly because we had a program here called California Community Transitions that dealt specifically with people transitioning from skilled nursing facilities to the community. However, the funding for that dried up. And so now we're sort of doing transition, nursing home transition as, part of our general outreach. But during the COVID-19 quarantine, we haven't really been able to do that because we can't go into any skilled nursing facilities to talk to people or even, meet with care managers or social workers or discharge planners or any of that stuff. And the same is true for our hospital environments. So I'm wondering, I actually kind of got on this call because I wanted to hear what other people are doing around nursing home transition and diversion, because primarily what we're doing right now is the diversion piece, but not so much the transition piece.
Our transitions right now have not slowed down at all. We've actually increased transitions during this time. And we've got what we've called a non-hands-on transitions going on, where everything we're doing is through email, online, right down to all of our HIPAA forms, all of our paperwork, everything that's involved is going to and from the social worker in the facility and back for signatures. We're talking to the individuals in the nursing home that we're going to transition out through conference calls with the social worker in the social worker's office generally. When it comes to transition everybody out, as far as I know everybody's got their own versions of a transition, but we work with the Money Follows a Person grant in Missouri, and we also do our own independent transitions as well. So when we go to move somebody out, we not only find them housing, but we use the funds that we have to purchase the household items and furnishings that they need. And we're doing all that online as well, and everything is being directly ordered and sent to their home and set up by the individual support system that's set in place, their family, their friends. So we're doing this without actually seeing them sometimes, but then again, we're doing it the old-fashioned way to a degree too. Not being able to go into the nursing home, we're meeting the people for the first time outside the nursing home when they're being picked up by their support system, taken to the new facility to sign the lease, or the new home to sign the lease. We're there during that process to pay for the cost, and then we do their shopping for them. But of course, we're taking all precautions and wearing masks, gloves, and the whole 9 yards. But ours have continued. We've actually quadrupled what we normally do in the last 3 months.
Oh.
Hi, this is Donna Gillette. Can I ask Steve a question? Hey, Steve.
Yes.
Where did you say you were from? You're with an independent living center?
Yes, we're called Empower Abilities. We're an independent living center in Springfield, Missouri.
Okay. And we're in upstate New York, our independent living center, RCIL. So I'm wondering, it sounds like you probably had built a really good relationship before the pandemic started with your nursing home, social workers, administrators, what have you. So is that why you're getting referrals now? Or
yes. Well, it's not, people are wanting out now. That's why we're getting a lot of the referrals. But I cover 27 counties. There's 95 nursing homes in those counties, and we have good relationships with pretty much all of them. We communicate regularly, and we transition people out whenever it's necessary. But during this time, we are getting a lot of referrals due to the relationships we previously built, but especially strengthening those relationships, because not being able to get in and see an individual hands on, I'm paranoid about who I get out because I don't want to send anybody for failure. I don't want their blood on my hands, as I would put it. And so I've got a great deal of trust that's going into that social worker at the nursing home and their administrator, because I don't mean this in any negative way. I transitioned out myself 12 years ago through the MFP program after spending 5 years in a nursing home.
Wow.
The fact is, people are going to tell us whatever we want to hear or what they think we need to hear to get them out. So that trust has to be developed in that social worker before I'm ready to just let somebody do it.
Right. No, thank you. It sounded like what you were doing was based on all the work you had done before. So thank you for talking about that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm wondering for people like me who are in a very different situation, how people are going about trying to develop or cultivate those relationships, because, you know, when we first started doing MFP many years ago, we did get a lot of referrals and people were very open to dealing with us. And now it's, you know, well, this person needs more care than you can give, so I didn't refer them. And how did you get in touch with them? And why did you come talk to them? And, you know, so it's very, very difficult.
Hey, this is Molly from Lewiston, Idaho, Disability Action Center, Center for Independent Living. And what we're doing, we have a real housing shortage here. We're in a very rural community, so housing is a bust, as we call it. It's pretty difficult, sometimes up to a year. Now, I also work with Money Follows the Person, and how it works here in Idaho is Money Follows the Person has to be the one that actually contacts the nursing home to remind them that Money Follows the Person exists and people can be transitioned out. We do have very good relationships with our nurse reviewers here in Idaho. So those folks also can make those referrals to Idaho Housing, which then comes down to me. But now with I'm not sure who all or if everyone got the COVID Act money. We've always, as independent living centers, have been available. That is one of our main core services, to transition someone out of the nursing home or use diversion to make sure a person isn't going to a nursing home, but we didn't have any money for that. So now with the COVID dollars that we have, what I'm starting to do this week is, because this isn't out of Money Follows the Person's pocketbook, this is out of our pocketbook. So now I am directly contacting nurse reviewers and I am directly contacting social workers in the nursing home. Because of the housing issue, we're kind of approaching this two different ways. Immediate, what I call evacuation for folks who have ended up in the nursing home with COVID-related issues that can go back into their own home once again. We are going to pay for that. We're also going to pay for anybody who wants out of there because of COVID, but just having problems finding the housing. So what this COVID money has done for us is, now I have no restrictions on anybody telling me who I can call and entice out of a nursing home because we're using Money Follows the Person dollars. I'm going in there either way, what for? So that's how we've done. We're starting to do the outreach, is actual contact with nursing homes and talking to them. We're working on some tablet purchases for the nursing homes. So we can do those in contact face-to-face meetings if that's allowable, or the consumer would prefer to do that than over the phone, or if we need an interpreter on hand. So that's kind of the approach we're taking right now. So it's a lot of ground to feet work to get into those nursing homes, and just keep in mind, these nursing homes really don't want to release some folks because that's money out of their pocket. So I'm trying to work my kind of friendship action with social workers, but the nurse reviewers ultimately are on our side. So those folks are really good to have in your corner.
Can I say something right quick? I just had two transitions where, well, I'm still in the middle of a process of transitioning them. And I just want to make it known that I had to actually contact my ombudsman because they actually had a problem with having, one of the housing, I had to actually have the person leave to go sign paperwork because it is state tax funded. So they had to actually go in person to make the application. And when that happened, when I brought it up to the social worker, they were just, no, 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 we can't do that. They cannot leave the facility. If they leave it, they'll lose all their benefits. Well, of course, this is not correct. This is against the law and things like that, to the rights of the residents. So I actually had to contact the ombudsman to make this clear to the administrator of the nursing facility. So just to throw that out there, please do contact your ombudsman if you do have some type of hesitation or any type of need to contact somebody to find help to help the resident to relocate. On the second incident, I had a resident that had a unfortunately death in the family, but at the time he hadn't passed away yet. He had a massive heart attack, had to leave. And I did have to deal with the same situation where she had to leave. She had to go for her family, to be with her family. At the time, they said, no, she's gonna lose the benefits. Again, I had to call the ombudsman. They made that clear to them that at the administrator, you have to make sure that they are able to leave and come back. They will not lose their benefits. And then when that happened, when they were returning, again, we had hit a wall where they were saying, well, you can come back, but we have 30 days to get you in. The ombudsman made it clear that if they did not have room for her to come back to do the quarantine, that they do have to provide a hotel room for her, find a sister nursing facility to accommodate her, but they do have to find accommodations for her to return, and she will not lose her benefits. So again, I had to contact my local ombudsman to make that happen. So if anybody is having any problems with anything like that, I definitely recommend that you do so. Contact the ombudsman to help you make the transition or relocation happen. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Several people in the chat also agreed with that. Shondell, you have your hand raised. Would you like to speak next?
Yes, hi. So my name is Shondell Diaz. I'm an options counselor for Stavros Center for Independent Living out of Amherst, Massachusetts. My job right now, and what I'm finding,
Center for Independent Living.
What I'm finding is that my job is to outreach to the local nursing homes and reach out to the social workers and find out, some of these social workers are not educated that there are options counselors in all of Massachusetts able to help residents and consumers transition out of the nursing home and provide them with resources such as Money Follows the Person and so on and so forth. So right now, that's basically what myself as a part of the organization has been focusing my time on, is providing outreach. I do get referrals for consumers who either want to transition out or stay in the community with proper resources in place. I'm not finding so much of the pushback from the nursing homes that they don't want to release people, but it's all on educating the social workers on how the process is. I have had to use the ombudsman many times, especially around the COVID situation where proper communications were not in place for consumers' family members who were wanting to know what is going on with the consumer, their status, or any of that. So that's just what we've been experiencing here myself.
Phone call completed.
Thank you.
Mobile, press U connect. Phone call completed.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the person who's doing that. All right, got him. Great.
I have some things to share.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so my name's Denise. I'm with the Southwest Center for Independence in Durango, Colorado. Much like Steve, we are actually extremely busy. I have 4 transitions that will be transitioning out within the next month. One's happening starting Tuesday. I think for starters, relationship building is absolutely key. The very first thing I do when I talk to the social worker is ask her how she's doing, how she's hanging in there. Let her know I know what she's going through must be really difficult for her right now. I think that helps a lot. Social workers have become one of my main referral sources because of like my relationship with them, and also they really like the risk mitigation planning that we do and how thorough we are with that. So I've done 2 transitions already during the pandemic, and some of my, and we're in a really small town. We're a town of like 18,000 proper. So some of my like tips, I guess, are like technology is absolutely crucial. So getting iPads or any sort of technology that the person is capable of using with them in the home. I just did a risk mitigation plan yesterday, and we're doing a Google Calendar that we all can access, so we can put items into the Google Calendar. We're getting them a Google Alexa, so that the Google Alexa can alert them, you have a doctor's appointment today, your ride will be here in 15 minutes, and a Google phone to go with that, with alerts as well, because I can't be in there checking the calendar every day. We're setting up mental health care for any of the transitions prior to transition, so that they already have that in place. We're doing all of our meetings via Skype. I'm getting everything signed and returned to me, and then I'm stapling it together with a sticky note that says actual doc, not.
Denise, you muted yourself accidentally.
Oh, sorry. If I can't get a signature, I'm getting a recorded voice of approval for me to talk to someone, or I'm getting a text or an email of approval for me to talk to someone, because we can't always get those in-person signatures. Yeah, so I guess those are some of the things that, oh, and we're also doing a whole COVID section in the risk mitigation plan. We're providing masks and gloves and sanitation supplies for them. And also the senior center is giving us gift cards for food. So we're stocking their fridge before they move so that they don't have to go out anywhere. And we're telling them we have to have a backup plan for 14 days of isolation for them. So in the risk mitigation plan, we're doing a plan for if they don't have any care for 2 weeks, what that's going to look like. So is family going to step in, whatever's going to happen, reordering all their supplies and getting their beds and everything set up before transition, obviously. And then, yeah, so those are some of the things I've learned. I mean, I still have so much to learn about this, but so far they've been going pretty well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. A couple of things. Brian had asked if we could do a quick poll of folks who are using the computer. And so you should see that on your computer now, if you don't mind answering them. And then really quick, Beth Gilliam says that they have a question for Molly. Beth, can you unmute? Do you have a microphone? Go ahead. Beth? Maybe while Beth is getting her microphone fixed, why don't we go ahead and keep going. Franklin, you said you have a question? Please feel free.
Yeah, hi. So first of all, I just came across something this morning dealing with the long distance. There is a website by the name of Doc Sketch, and let me copy this. It's an online signature. Again, you can use that. You can probably use that and also list it as not an original signature on there. A lot of the organizations that we've been working with have been quite awesome. There are very few with limiting releases and such with us. If we copy, do a text copy of our consent forms, email it, and have them originate have them send us back an original email authorizing us to speak to that agency. A lot of the agencies have been very gracious at allowing us to use that to make contact with them. Very accepting. The question that I have, if I can find it, I wrote it down, was one of the biggest problems that we have along
I have at least half an hour before I can leave.
We're having, and we're trying to ensure the safety of individuals transitioning out, is the cleanliness, or cleaning the units prior to. We're in an area that is not exactly the best.
Yeah, bring it to me. I'll grade it.
It's not exactly the best for housing, and we certainly don't want to put them from a somewhat clean environment into a dirty unit. Most of the landlords here do not sanitize this. So if we're looking at the previous tenants may have had COVID, and it was and it's still around in the area, the turnaround on these are quite rapid. How is anybody else dealing with that? What crews prior to discharge are they doing? How are they doing that?
We've got good relationships. We've got good relationships. I not only try and build relationships with the nursing homes, but we try and do the same thing with property management companies around our area and throughout our counties. And most of the ones that we deal with, we try and promote their properties more so than others because of the fact that they're well taken care of. They take care of our clients really well too, and they're very sanitary. They take a couple of weeks' time just to clean up an apartment before they let anybody else move in. So the turnover rate may be high, but they're taking precautions and making sure everything's clean before we put somebody else in them. And regarding nursing homes and the relationships with nursing homes and transitions, we don't have any problem because we pretty much contact them. Zoom is a great thing. We were utilizing Zoom before COVID. We send out flyers to the 95 nursing homes that we deal with, and we have Zoom meetings. And because of the fact that turnover rates are so high in social services and nursing homes around here anyway, we often get people that aren't even familiar with MFP or transitions or even independent living centers. So regularly, usually every other month, we have Zoom meetings two times each month, or 2 times every other month. And we educate them on MFP and transitions and what a SIL actually represents. And that's how we promote that. And more often than not, here with MFP, these social workers have the ability to enter a referral through the Section Q of our MFP system. But rather than even doing that, we're getting phone calls all the time. They're just doing direct referrals to us or to here it's Division of Health and Senior Services that contracts us. And they're contacting Division of Health and Senior Services directly. It spreads word of mouth like wildfire. So we have no shortage of people that are trying to get out through the programs that we offer.
I have a question for Steve. Hi, it's Donna Gillette, upstate New York. Steve, so right now with my center, we're in Herkimer, New York. We're part of our Utica Resource Center for Independent Living. We also have an office in Amsterdam, which is closer to Albany, in that area. But right now it's just me as the director and one full-time advocate doing everything we did before. I have been very concerned about what's going on, what we're reading, and what's going on with transfers to nursing homes, and using them at this time for acute care treatment for people they just don't know what to do with, obviously. And it's, for people with disabilities that we always know get ferried off in that direction after acute care from hospitals. But right now, I mean, we had the MFP program before. Right now, we do have an ombudsman program out of our main office, and that has seemed to me like the way to really find out, because they're working remotely, and when I talked to them recently, they're having good luck at still getting to residents. So, but right now, it's just me and my advocate. I want to reach out to our folks that we work with at the nursing homes that we have built relationships with, but I'm afraid I can't handle it with just the 2 of us. So we are looking at this. We're very concerned about this. And I'm so pleased that you're giving this information. We're having this peer discussion. I think that, you know, making the calls and really doing the ask, what can we help with? What are you seeing? What, you know, who do you have that you know has some place to go back to? So we can do all that. I just, you know, be careful what you wish for with demand. I just don't want to promise something that because right now we're not allowed to have any contact with consumers. When we do our soft reopening here, we're in phase 1 and just phase 2, we think. Our county executives are saying maybe we're in phase 2. Governor Cuomo is saying no, not yet. So we're working through all of that as information comes in, but we're not allowed to do anything that is face-to-face. So what everybody's talking about with the Zoom meetings, with the social workers, I love that. So I want to thank you all very much for sharing this. That I can do, and we'll just have to rely on some of our other offices for support and help if we get more than we can handle.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that we're very much in a similar boat as you. This is Kirsten from Iowa, Iowa City, Iowa. Our center serves 8 different counties, and I currently am the only person that's doing transitions out of the nursing homes in those counties, along with other duties that I have. And I'm finding it very hard to get out there and build those relationships with very many nursing facilities. I have 2 that I'm pretty close to right now, but the others, it's just with the demand of people wanting out and all of the other job duties I have, it's just kind of really hard to be able to meet the demand of people and be able to get out there and let them know that we even exist. So I'm in the same boat as you. So I'm wondering kind of the same thing. How do I, with me being the only person, grow this? Because we really want to grow it. I see an injustice when people are wanting to get out and they're not allowed to.
How many independent living centers are in your state?
So in our state, there's 6. And if you think of the state of Iowa, it's kind of like a belt that goes across. We have 99 counties in the state, and I think only 30 are actually covered by a center, something around there. Sorry.
Okay.
But so it's pretty, there's not a lot we can do with every county, and I'm trying my best to be able to connect with case managers. That's a good thing, to connect with the case managers in the nursing facilities. If you connect with them, they will just refer people to you because they see the need as well. But like I said, with only me being the only person doing it, it's kind of tricky to be able to get out there and get.
Well, I covered Southwest Missouri. We started out with just 8 counties and developed into what we have now, the 27. But I done it alone, and I only have one person working directly with me right now. But we've subcontracted to
That's all right, Steve. You're making us look bad here.
Well, we've subcontracted 2 other independent living centers that are in more rural areas, because there's a lot of rural counties here. And
Right.
so the rural counties, we assist each other in those. And that's why I was asking how many centers you had in that state, because of the fact that if you work together like a lot of the ones here, we don't have any issues with transferring a client to another county or another region or whatever, just to try and help one another get somebody transitioned out. And a lot of the rural counties, it's not the fact that they can't transition people, but they don't have the resources there. So in a lot of the counties that I'm covering myself, we're gaining resources, we're putting them on a truck and taking them to the counties that we're transitioning somebody into. So we're buying our products and everything in Springfield and taking them 100 miles away to the place that the individual is actually moving to. So the resource problem and the lack of help is a big issue with a lot of the rural independent living centers.
This is Mary. Oh, sorry.
So,
I'm just 1 minute. Sorry. If you don't mind, I just wanted to follow up. This is going to be a quick question. Molly, Beth was unable to get her microphone to work, but can you just clarify, do people need to be in the nursing home for 90 days, like through MFP programs?
No, not at all.
Using CARES Act.
There's no stipulations. So we're not confined by any money follows the CARES Act boundaries or obligations using the COVID money. They can be in there 2 days. It doesn't matter.
Wonderful, thanks.
It's Darius from Access Living from Chicago. So we have a couple of different programs. One is a huge program that covers our whole county. And the state allow us, when it comes to documentation, to obtain virtual signatures on informed consent forms, for example. So if we have a witness on the call when we calling the consumer, we can just put the witness name on the form and a comment that the signature was obtained virtually over the phone. So the state accepts these forms. A lot of the approach right now is, since the moves are almost impossible to do, just let's try to do what we can. So the major focus right now is going to be on outreach and trying to find out the people who are interested, and then based on this list we'll figure out the next steps. Hopefully, situation gonna improve. But my major question is, and thank you, Bernice, for the idea of people leaving nursing facility and coming back and being put 2 weeks in a separate room and things like that. That might be one of the solutions. But I wonder if anyone had any experience with virtual viewings, so showing units to consumers without taking them to the units. And another thing, one of our major concerns is safety of our staff when transporting consumers. So even if we can take somebody to a viewing, having somebody who potentially has the virus. And here in Chicago, the situation in nursing facilities is really, really horrible. There are nursing facilities that have over 100 cases of COVID. So how are you guys dealing with that part?
So this is Denise. I wanted to respond, I guess, first to the first question, which was, how are you how are you doing this without doing face-to-face? So I've done 2 transitions. I have 4 in process. I have done no face-to-face. It's been via Zoom. And so we have some support groups here on Facebook. We have one called Be Kind Durango, and we have one Stand Together COVID-19. And I can post on there to get someone to take one of my consumers shopping and get 40 responses within a couple hours. So basically peer support, peer support, peer support. So asking others in the area that can help you. I posted, I'm sorry, I have a young one. I posted looking for people to help physically transport, to help set up utilities, to help organize, to socialize, those kinds of stuff. And I got an enormous response of peer support. And then I connected that with my consumers. So I think peer support is huge. I think organization is absolutely enormous. You have to have everything ready before you move that person, and think about all the things that they're gonna need before. Like I have someone moving that's blind, and I have a vision specialist going in, putting in a microwave, putting in a phone, putting in all these resources for them before they move in. So it's all about that planning piece. And then in regards to the virtual tours, I have done virtual tours. I've taken videos, I've taken photos. I've sent those over to the nursing home for viewings. In my instance, I actually have been able to get the nursing home to bring the consumers to their apartment so that they can see them, so that they can see it in person in some instances. So I've been able to do that as well. I don't transport anyone, and it's not even an option. If they can't get to their apartment by themselves in some way, whether that's family, whether that's a nursing home, whether that's a taxi cab or another ride service, we cannot transport them. You have to assume that they have been contaminated, I'm sorry, that they have been exposed to the virus, even though we don't have a lot of cases here. The assumption that we're making is that they have been exposed to the virus. So that's in the risk mitigation plan. And if we can't make accommodations for getting them there and keeping them isolated, we can't transition until we can make those accommodations.
We don't transport people either. And if those accommodations aren't there, then they're not going anywhere. There's various means of transportation around here. Like you said, the nursing homes, sometimes they'll drop the individual off, and that happens a lot around here. The nursing homes, they'll transport them to their new home. If we can't go that route, then there's always the option. We do have a bus, and if we've got a driver, that seems to be our biggest problem, keeping a driver. But if we've got a driver, then they could ride our bus. If they can't, then there's taxi cabs. Generally, they've got to, before we even transition somebody out, that's something they have to have in place, the support system. And that support system has to be somebody that they can call in an emergency situation that can be there to help them. Usually that individual is going to be there on the day they transition out to transport them to their home, as well as to the utility department to get utilities turned on that day and whatever else they need to do, because they're an active part throughout that whole day of transitioning, and that individual, that's their transportation. So that's the route that we go there. As far as we use Zoom meetings to actually interact with the social worker and the client prior to them getting out. I mean, that's how we go through their whole, we do a transition plan. We do the options, what we call an options counseling here. I know MFP is set up differently in different states, but we do an options counseling when we get a referral. If they get approved, we do a transition plan. And all of that is done through Zoom with the social worker and the individual we're transitioning out. And on top of that, the supports we have in place, we've got supports either through CDS or in-home services. So they've got an aide if they qualify for services that's going to be there to help them if they need to go to the grocery store, if they need anything after they transition out. Those things are already in place to take care of those issues.
This is Beth Dewald, and I'm from Jamestown, North Dakota, rural America, and deal with a lot of the same challenges, whether it's inner city or farmland. But anyway, I wanted to make a couple red flag comments regarding Denise's ideas. I think they're great and great utilization of our resources. However, I also am dealing with vulnerable individuals, and I don't have the time to screen everybody, to do background checks on everybody that is going to volunteer to, and I see some nodding of heads out there.
Yeah, I wondered the same thing.
Yeah, and we're lucky, at least in our area, and a lot of your areas should also have this, is a volunteer program that's available out there, something like RSVP, that take care of that kind of business for me. And so that was just a concern of mine. And on another point, I also, with COVID, I'm working really hard with a family right now that the transition should occur on the 19th. I'm celebrating that this gentleman wants to do this, but he also is one that kind of does parrot talk for whatever his spouse wants. And the biggest thing right now is that they have not been able to physically see each other since February. And so that's the big driving force. Is it the safest, best option for him? Oh man, I'll do anything I can to get him home. I think that's wonderful. But I'm also trying to really be realistic with the spouse. Are you going to truly be able to provide care for him 24/7, that he is in a safe environment also? And she works 8 hours a day. And so finding the services is a challenge, because we have great services in town, but a lot of them aren't taking on any new responsibilities right now because they're having trouble with their staffing issues. And so that becomes a challenge for me. But at this point, I think we got all the things in place to make that happen.
Hi, My name is Bobby Fields, and I'm with the Memphis Center for Independent Living. And I have a question. I'm basically the only transition person in my organization. I've transitioned, like the young lady said, I've already transitioned this fiscal year 3 people during COVID. However, I do more than just the nursing home transition. I also do preventive institutionalization. And my question is this, if someone can answer it. I transition not only in my state, in my city, but I have transitioned from state to state.
That's what I'm using there. Thank you. Yeah, it's fine.
And in doing so, I have met with quite a few obstacles in being able to utilize the COVID-19 CARES money funds. So I would like to know if anyone else have transitioned from state to state, and what problems have you encountered in COVID-19?
I transitioned one from Texas to Missouri, to Springfield, Missouri. And the hard part about all this is the fact that each state has their own Medicaid program.
Yes.
So the problem that I ran into, I ended up having them transfer to a nursing home in Springfield. That way they were here long enough to get on Missouri Medicaid. And then after that, I transitioned them out of the nursing home here.
Well, fortunately, on that end, I think I'm proud of my state because the consumer can start that process before they even get here, as long as they have a physical address here, be it a relative or a friend. So that process has already begun with transfer her care from state to this state choices program. Well, which our program is called Choices. Our home and community-based service is called 10 Care Choices. That process has been started, but until that has been approved and put into place, she is going to still need services. And being able to utilize the COVID-19 to cover some of the medical equipment that she's going to be needing temporarily, and other factors, transportation and so forth. How have you dealt with that?
Well, the one that I got up here, I wanted her to move into a nursing facility here for the simple fact that I couldn't see who she was in Texas. She didn't have the ability to do Zoom. And as I'd mentioned before, a lot of people will tell you whatever they think you need to hear to get them out. I didn't want to transition her directly from Texas into a home here without seeing what condition she was in and knowing what needs she had, so that I could have the correct supports in place. So putting her into a nursing home here, or helping her get into a nursing home here, allowed me time to both let her get on Missouri Medicaid and me to find her an address to move into, and for me to see what needs she really had. And once she got here, she was here 30 days and I transitioned her out. This wasn't an MFP case. It ended up being, we transition people without MFP all the time. Actually, the funds that we earn through MFP are put in a savings account, or an account just specifically to transition people that don't qualify for MFP. But we got her here. She had a friend that lived here, and that's why she wanted to transfer up here. But once she got out, that friend provides her transportation. We set her up with in-home services. So she's got an aide that comes out 5 days a week, 3 hours a day. And outside of the services within home, she's got that friend that's pretty much there in her life on an active schedule daily. But she's an active member of the church who her friend is a pastor of, and that plays a big support too. And churches are great for support, but she's an active member of that church, so they're familiar with her.
And like you said, we have been doing Zoom meetings right now, and she has quite a extensive physical condition that requires quite a bit of assistance as well as equipment. And right now she's not in a nursing home. She refused to go to a nursing home, and that's all right. So I'm charged with helping her, like I say, to be able to utilize some of the COVID-19 funds to help her with equipment that the insurance will not cover that she has presently, and other transportation needs and doctor and stuff like that. Like I said, I do a lot of preventive as well as
I'm on a Zoom meeting that I'm just listening.
issue.
Does the Independent Living Center down there refurbish DME and donate it back out?
Oh yes, we have we call it Mid-South Act. Yeah, they refurbish organizations. They take in used medical equipment and so forth and fix it up like new, and they give it back out to referral recipients that we send over.
That's our prime resource for any of our clients coming out of a nursing home. That's where I go. We got that. We do that here too, and that's my prime resource for DME.
Awesome. Sorry, just one moment. I just wanted to pop in quick. If this might be a good time. There's a lot going on everywhere. I'm so glad we're sharing so much. First of all, I just wanted to say there are many people wondering about an email list. So since we kind of pulled this together the last minute, there wasn't a registration, but many people are dropping emails into the chat. You can do that definitely. If you're on the phone, you can email me at molson.april@gmail.com. And only send your information if you're willing to have it put on a list. And what we'll do is we'll make a contact list from that, throw it up in the resources on the website along with the recording so that folks can access that. So again, you can either email me at molson.april@gmail.com, or you can drop it into the chat box. And then I'll sort through that and we'll pull that together so that folks can be able to contact each other afterwards. There's nothing like good old-fashioned peer support. And then, great. Sorry to interrupt, Bobby. Did that answer your questions?
Yes, and thank you. That gave me a new avenue to try. So thank you so much, Steve.
Awesome. I wanted to jump in quick. Kira has had her hand raised. Kira, did you have a question? Kira Meskin?
Hi, yes, hi. Let me get to my question. I wrote it down. So initially this was, I'm just gonna reflect. So what I'm hearing a lot of is that there's this underlying issue of resources, what we have and what we don't have. And so initially this question was to Steve, but I would like to open it up to others as well, because I'm wondering, when you were discussing the resources you're bringing to people and the resources that you have and you're utilizing, we've heard some of them, but I'd like to hear more about like the tangible items you're getting specifically in terms of resources, and then also how those resources are being allocated to you. Yeah, allocation is a huge piece of this. So it's either being funded to us, right, or we need to advocate for it. So that's my question.
Are you talking which resources specifically? Just give me an example.
Sure. I mean, something I'm working very much on in the Chicago Cook County area is accessing PPE. So that's one example. Yeah, just knowing the various organizations you're also like allying with to make things happen. It sounds like there's interdisciplinary approach that's not as siloed that some of us are used to. Yeah.
Are you working with MFP?
Well, Darius is here from Access Living. He would know a lot more about it, but it's not something that I think it was a pilot program here, and we still follow those steps and guidelines, but it's not something that's supported by our state. It's not a state program.
Well, that's one of the things, one of the resources that we have here is we went to our state about PPE because we wanted to be able to continue with transitions, and we gave them the reasons why we wouldn't be able to without it. So they allocated a certain amount of funds through MFP funds to pay for PPE for each of the independent living centers. Well, not independent living centers specifically, but each of the providers that transition people out here. So we're getting enough PPE to supply us and the subcontractors that we have that do transitions. So that's our resource for that. But we also have access through our AT department who have connections to get PPE as well. And I'm not sure what resource they use, but they've got resources too.
What about for nursing homes? That's actually an area that I haven't explored. I've been focusing more on home-based services and providing folks with PPE, but how, like, has anyone even worked on that at all? I'm just curious. Like accessing, like getting it to folks who are living in nursing homes?
Getting PPE to people in nursing homes?
Yeah.
Our state is pretty much, in Missouri, the state is responsible for that. The state has resources for the nursing homes and they're getting theirs through the state.
Yes, that's the same thing in Texas as well. The state is taking care of that. I'm more concerned of the PPE for home providers. That is not being resourced.
Well,
I don't see it being resourced in Texas.
We have several providers here in Missouri, and we are one of them. I mean, we provide an in-home ourselves, but we're supplying our company, our aides, with the correct PPE. And a lot of the facilities down here, a lot of the providers down here are doing the same thing. I can't attest for all of them because not all of my clients use all of them, but the ones that I'm lining my clients up with, they do have the correct PPE.
This is Sandy Pop from Options for Independent Living in Green Bay. That's where we're having an issue with, is getting our personal care workers PPE. And we have a consumer-driven program, so they find their own personal care workers, and we act as the pseudo employer. So when you are saying correct PPE, so we can find a lot of the dust masks and things like that, but are you talking about surgical masks, N95s, those types of things that you're able to locate right now?
Right here on the screen, if you could see it, this is what we're getting. And I get them by the case. Distribute them to, those are the masks. We get surgical gloves, we get latex gloves, we get sanitizer, pretty much gowns, pretty much anything we could.
Wait, from who? Can you reiterate from who?
We're bringing them through sources here, but we're getting the funding through the MFP program. And what we don't get through the MFP program, we're using our, I don't know if everybody has it, but we have an IL grant that we get here in Missouri, an independent living grant that goes to all the CILs in Missouri. There's 22 of us. And that IL grant funds some of the PPE as well. But we've got our own online distributor. I could get that information for you. I'm not the one who orders it personally. I just put in what we need and our HR person orders it. But I can get the information from the distributor. That way, if you guys want to try and order from there, you might be able to.
That would be great, but really my question is, are you just using the 3-layer masks or for the appropriate, or are you using N95s and the medical grade surgical masks?
Right here, medical surgical masks.
Yep, and that's what we're looking for. So if you can get a provider of those for us via however, the email chain, that would be fabulous. Those are the only things we haven't been able to find. We can find hand sanitizers, we can find wipes, but the medical grade masks is what, because we're not going to be able to supply all of our personal care workers with N95s just because of the expense. We do not have a pot of funding. We're using the little bit of COVID CARES Act that's coming down to the independent living centers in Wisconsin. We don't have money follows the person here. We have MCOs, and I saw a lot of that on the chat, that people having to deal with MCOs in their states, their managed care organizations, and they really pretty much rule with anybody that is in nursing homes. So I'm expecting them to be getting the appropriate PPEs for not only the individuals that they're transitioning out, but those that are in also. But for us, for just our program, we're having a tough time finding the surgical masks for our personal care workers. So any information would be just appreciated more than you know.
We were slow to get them, but we don't have any problem getting them. They're just slow to get back to us with them. But we're buying them by the case. I mean, we have no problem getting them through this, whoever our distributor is.
Well, if I could get that, that'd be great. I put my email in there because we're not opening yet. We're on a 3-phase covering the state of Wisconsin, how they're reopening some things. And so we're still in a red phase where we just have too many active cases. We cover 17 counties. So we have a step plan that will reopen just the offices. We're all working virtually. But we do want to, when we do come back to work, not only do we want to make sure that our personal care workers are safe, our consumers are safe, but that when we start doing home visits, we'll be safe also. And we need to gather all of that equipment, the PPE for our staff, before we can even consider opening our doors. So.
Sandy, wonderful. So I just want to let you know there are several folks also dropping in places where they're getting PPE in the chat. And again, we'll save this chat, we'll pin it, and we'll put it with the resources on the April website. I do just want to let folks know.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. And we are scheduled for about 30 more minutes. We have the cart until then. And I wanted to just double back around really quick to a few questions I've pinned in the chat. One of them is, there's some folks, several people were wondering if people don't have access to computers or internet in the nursing home for a multitude of reasons, is anybody having success working with them and transitioning them out?
I'm using a phone system. If they don't have a way to video chat, then I'm just doing it on conference call.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that I'm doing the same thing. So basically, if they don't have the access to Zoom, or if they don't have if the nursing home doesn't have any type of iPad or anything like that, everything's being done through phone, through email, contacting, emergency contacts, next of kin to try to get any documentations that's necessary to transfer out.
Thank you.
This is Marcy from the World Institute on Disability. If there are folks who are having difficulty getting communication equipment, tablets and phones, or if there are folks who would like to talk about their experiences with that, it's one of the things that we will be discussing on the Global Town Hall Disability and Disaster meeting tomorrow. I just put a link in the chat about that. We are bringing folks together with corporate and foundation folks who are really interested in hearing from disability-led organizations about exactly this. How are you communicating with people who are in nursing homes and other congregate settings? So please either join us or if it's something that you would like to talk more specifically about, please reach out to me, marcy@wid.org. And this is the beginning of a really important discussion about how to get resources to the disability-led organizations on the ground in disasters to help folks to maintain their health, their safety, their independence, and their dignity. So please join us or reach out.
Thank you, Marcy. And that actually leads into a follow-up question that folks had. They said, unfortunately, where they are at, many of those nursing homes don't have individual phones. They're in congregate areas, common areas. And because of that, staff are not allowing residents to use the phones. And so they're wondering, if other people are experiencing this, or how have you gotten around this barrier?
So with me, the social workers I'll arrange with the social worker, and they'll set up to use an outside space or a common area, and they'll bring the person in if that person is not on isolation. If the person is on isolation, we haven't found a workaround for that yet. And then we do a Zoom call in that space. In regards to technology, I haven't run into that issue because I think there's always a workaround. So we've sent Zoom meetings, we've sent Google meetings if they don't have Zoom. We've given the nursing home the resources to set up those chats for us. And through the AAA grant, we can get, and I think everyone, because I believe there's a national grant out right now with that you can get technology for anyone over the age of 60. So we've been able to start to get iPads and things like that for our consumers that we're working with. But personally, I don't do a transition if I can't see them face to face, because I just don't feel comfortable enough not being able to at least, I mean, via Zoom, like if I can't do a FaceTime call, if I can't do a Zoom call, if I can't do something, I feel like in order to do my risk mitigation plan, I need to see them at some point. Maybe the first phone call is a phone call if they're just kind of dipping their toes in, but at some point I require a video call. Oh, and I was gonna say with Steve, like what Steve said, we have state funding for all of our PPE too. I this morning just dropped off a whole bag of PPE for my transition that's transitioning Tuesday, and I left it with the nursing home, and it has gloves and masks and sanitation supplies, and then her apartment will already have all the cleaning supplies, and all that's paid for through the state. So we have funding for it.
Thank you. And then Jody wanted to add in the chat that they actually offer to and buy prepaid cell phones if they need to, and then drop them for that individual. And then Frank mentioned that there is a technology training. It's called Senior Planet, and they will assist nursing homes to set up and train individuals with their own technology or with available technology, like smartphones. So that's another resource.
I just wanted to add something right quick. Also, I haven't heard anybody talk about the stimulus. And one thing that I realized, and I did find out through Ages in Aging website, well, through a seminar, was that the stimulus is still being provided for those who are in the nursing facility. What I'm finding out, though, is that nursing facilities are not alerting the residents of this. There is this whole assumption that if they do get the stimulus, that they'll be discontinued off of the benefits, but that is not true. I just wanted to bring it up so that way, if in case anybody does run into something where you're relocating someone, that what I had to do was make sure that the nursing facility writes out a check to that person, because the facility is receiving the funding for that person, but they are having, well, in this instance, they had to write a check out to that resident before they leave. So in case anybody is dealing with that, just know that that stimulus money is their money, is not accounted as income, and it does not affect their benefits. And they have 12 months to use that money before it is considered income. So that's all I had to say.
The only difficult thing about the stimulus that we've really had to deal with has been the fact that when we go shopping for anything on a transition, almost everything's out of stock. Trying to find resources for all the things that the transition needs, it's a nightmare sometimes just dealing with that aspect of it. Everybody's taking that stimulus out and acting like it's Christmas and just going out and buying new things.
Awesome, thank you guys. I just wanted to double back to one more question that we hadn't really talked about yet. There were several people asking questions about housing. There were different varieties of the question, but in general, are you guys having success working with local housing agencies, or, you know, what are you doing in order to help secure housing funding or housing in general for folks?
In our state, well, at least in my county, because I know not all our counties allow this. In Nueces County in Texas, we have a program called TAS. I'm sorry, excuse me. Oh my goodness, I can't believe TIBRA, forgive me. And it's a tenant-based rental assistance that allows them to have assistance for up to 2 years. So when they're applying for housing, it usually takes, it's project access that we apply them for initially. And when they're on that list, it usually takes anywhere from a year or two, which is the reason why we have the tenant-based rental assistance that provides that assistance until they get the project access, which as soon as the project access is accepted, that overrides the TIBRA, and they're taken off of that. But that's in Nueces County in Texas, so I'm not sure if TIBRA is available everywhere.
We have that for one of the counties that we serve. It's tenant-based rental assistance. It basically works like a housing voucher. So,
One of the good
but we only have it for one of the counties we serve. The other ones are, it doesn't work for.
Our state has developed a pilot program that kind of pertains to tax credit property, and we've partnered with several contractors here that cover different counties that we've got, or some of which cover all over Missouri. But what they've done is they've created a pilot program that has an in-home service provider, that an aide or a nurse that lives on site, and 4 referral units for each complex. And these referral units are built for our transitions. They get to choose whether they want to live there or not. It's up to them where they live, but they're an option for them, and they're all based at the 30 percentile range of income. So when they move in, they're only typically going to be paying on average somewhere around $250, give or take a few dollars. They come with a washer and dryer hookup. They're brand new usually. None of these are over 10 years old, but for the most part, they're within a 5-year range. But we had one that just opened, which was fortunate to us because half the transitions that we've done just this last month have gone into that unit. But they're all zero entry. They're all accessible, completely accessible, ADA approved. I mean, they're great properties, and we've got them all over the state of Missouri due to these partnerships we've got with developers that want to build tax credit property. And they come with transportation as well. We've got transportation that are contracted to pick our individuals up at least 6 times a month. Anything beyond that, it's up to the individual to schedule and plan, and they can schedule their own rides in those 6 rides. So these complexes, these apartment complexes, come with an in-home provider. They come with transportation, and they're totally accessible.
Thank you, Steve. I'm wondering, I see M.M. Murphy in the chat. I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit. You got several comments just about some of the barriers you're experiencing. I don't know if you wanted to talk at all about it, see if anybody had thoughts.
Hi, I was looking for the little hand, but I can't find it to raise my hand. Yeah, a couple things I've run into that have been really frustrating is I had one last week who had finally reached the top of the list for a waiting list and had an appointment to go look at the housing. If she agreed that she liked it and signed for it, it was hers. The nursing home refused to let her go to the appointment because they're still in Pennsylvania, they're doing colors, red, yellow, green, and they're still in red. So they're locked down and can only leave for medical reasons, appointments, dialysis. So I explained to them that she'll only have one more chance to go, and if she misses that appointment, she will be removed from the list. I also asked the housing authority to give her some kind of reasonable accommodation, such as a Zoom call or FaceTime something, and they refused. They said she must be in person to see the apartment in order to take it.
Shay?
I had the same incident, and like I said previously, the ombudsman is going to be your best bet. They're the ones that are going to fight for that right with the administrators. And I've already, again, twice I had that incident where they had to leave, but they have the right to come back, and they have to provide, if they cannot provide a quarantine area for that person, then they have to find their sister nursing facility, or they have to pay for accommodations at a hotel until that does become available. They cannot lose their benefits just because of this opportunity to be able to, and I mean, it's their right to leave. They have a right to come back. They just need to be able to provide. They have to know, the resident does have to know that they will be in quarantine for 14 days or whatever, you know, their how they do it, but you know, I would definitely contact the ombudsman to get that done and do it as soon as you can.
Yeah, I was going to call him yesterday, but then I thought I would start with the nursing home administrator, and she's now trying to talk with the housing authority. But I figured if I didn't hear from her by end of day today, that I would contact the ombudsman.
And something else that
We
Roads and
need to
Freedom
talk
is
with housing authority on the national level, or HUD, I should say, to discuss this concern and this issue, because I just heard it happen in more than just one area. So it's not a unique situation, and not providing a reasonable accommodation. And the second thought was contacting your local state housing authority to determine if they've got any resources or tools to give you to bring back to those housing authorities to educate them on the rights and responsibilities they have and the rights and responsibility of your consumers. And I also wrote this one down because I'm on the board for our local housing that covers a multi-area, county area. And I'm going to be talking with them because I'm not aware of any issues we've had on that front. So I kind of got my undies in a wad for you.
It's Lackawanna County.
Can you please tell me again, who did you contact so that way they can find resources, Ms. Beth, about contacting the housing authority? What did you say exactly? I'm sorry.
I would suggest you talk to HUD on the national level would be one, but I would first start with the housing authority in your state, because they should be there to provide guidance and support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shondell, go ahead, please.
Oh gosh, this thing. Okay, so in regards to housing, unfortunately, Massachusetts is a very small state and we're very overpopulated. So other than doing a CHAMPS application, which is the statewide application, and or trying to assist consumers to either go back to their homes or get into congregates, I really haven't had an issue with housing per se. What I will say though is I in regards to some of the nursing homes in my area, one or two, I'm not gonna say all of them, just one or two, where I've had to bring in the help of an ombudsman, I've been blunt-faced told that the ombudsman is an advocate just like you. So I wanted to see if anybody else has had that experience. And
yeah, I've
reality,
definitely had the experience of really the ombudsman not being particularly useful, and the people, the residents of the nursing home, as soon as I say, what about the ombudsman, just sort of start laughing. One thing that I have noticed in my area that might be maybe worth for people to look into is that there are volunteer ombudsmen that go to the facility, and then there are paid ombudsmen, at least for us, that work for the region. And it's people have had a little more success talking to regional ombudsmen. But the volunteer ombudsmen, people won't even talk to them. People are just like, no matter what I tell them, no matter what happens, either nothing will happen or it will get back to me and there will be retaliation. So I'm also wondering if other folks are having that same problem and how they're kind of getting around it.
yeah, I've basically gotten, and it's not so much the, when you mention an ombudsman to a consumer, they're whatever can help them in their situation, they will do. It's more of the staff, like the social workers, who kick back to me, like when I mention, okay, well, then I'll have to call an ombudsman, and they're just like, okay, well, they're just an advocate like you. They really have no say here. That's the kickback that I'm getting.
Speaking related to COVID and housing and things like that, our SIL is developing an evacuation and relief program for consumer choice. We've had nursing homes just completely full of COVID, no options to leave. So we are working with local commissioners in the state right now. We've partnered with people in the community to offer 30-day hotel stays with We partnered with local restaurants to provide the food. We've been partnering with PAS agencies to do in-home care where they have a joint room, just to give them the options to, you know, quarantine appropriately. Many of the nursing homes in this area have, you know, 4 people in a room, 2 people in a room, very little options. And we're up to 22 deaths in one nursing home in particular with only a census of 88. So you can imagine that the impact was pretty severe. So that's something that we're working on currently.
Did you say that you were from Arcel? Is that in Austin?
No, we're Roads to Freedom Center for Independent Living in Central Pennsylvania.
Okay, thank you.
We also, as a subservice of that program, we're also designing a fast track NHT program. So what we're doing is we're identifying consumers who are close to wanting to go home and offering them a temporary stay in the hotel until we get the other pieces put together, such as maybe they're just a week or 2 out from securing the housing. So we're diligently working on that because some of these consumers are in nursing homes that COVID is very prevalent in. So if we can possibly prevent them from getting it and get them out of that environment, that's what we're doing.
Thank you. I'm just scrolling through here. Oh man, this has been fast and furious and really useful. I'm really glad that so many people were able to join. Just a quick update, there are people emailing me wondering about, can they get access to everything going on right now? Yes, so we will put it on the April homepage, and we will also send it out on our listserv. I'm going to record this recording in a whole, and you can look at it as it is now, or you can just read the transcript that I'll make available, or and also the chat information and those resources. So it'll all be on the website. I know everything's been happening fast and furiously, but I just wanted to mention that again really quick. And we've got about, oh my gosh, it's already been almost 90 minutes. We have about 7 minutes left. I'm wondering if there are last minute questions that people didn't get answered. I've been trying to follow the chat, but are there any issues that really we didn't get a chance to cover yet?
I think this is Frank over at Center for Independence, Grand Junction. I think one of the biggest things that we have to discuss, and it was mentioned in the chat, was housing, shortage of housing. First of all, the active shortage of housing, and secondly, the lack of acceptance of property managers and landlords to accept the housing vouchers, the state housing vouchers. They just don't want to deal with it. We have numerous property managers out here who will absolutely refuse to accept housing vouchers for this, even for this program. I really have to sell them on it, the intense case management. But I think that's something that we really have to address and how we are going to approach that issue. We were one of several CILs across the nation to have the be invited to a program down in Ability 360 in Phoenix, and we had discussed a lot of things. We're working on a program right now. We would like to share ideas on that. We have been sharing ideas, but I would really love to see this be a major discussion across the board, especially in rural areas that we're dealing with.
Thank you, Frank. I also just wanted to say thank you. I see you offered to help Kristen, Kirsten was asking, does anyone have issues with Medicaid funding transferring from the facility to a community waiver or to the waiver? And I see that you offered to help her kind of figure it out. But do you have any quick tips that you might give, just if others are struggling with that?
As far as the billing is concerned, it's taken me a long while and a lot of things getting paid for that, but I've figured some things out through our state, but it might be very similar. It might be very similar elsewhere. So I might be able to help. I'm not, I'm more than happy to try and take a crack at it with them.
Thank you. My goodness, you guys. So we are almost at the end of our conversation here. Several people are asking, are we going to hold this again? I think my boss is on the line, but I'm just going to go ahead and say yes. And if he doesn't agree with me, he can. Billy?
Myself and give you my blessing.
Okay, great. So it sounds like this was something that was really useful for folks. So we'll pull together all the information. It might take me a couple of days to sift through all this great stuff. We'll post it. We'll make sure to announce it. You can find us on Facebook and our website. I will drop in the bottom. If you haven't dropped your email into the chat yet, please do so. Or you can email me at molson.april@gmail.com. I'll send it out to that list, and then also, you know, we will then put that list together and have that just available so folks can just kind of reach out to some people. I think the last thing I just wanted to mention, so you guys took a poll, and if you're curious, we had 130 people vote. 91 people, or 70%, have a dedicated staff person for transition. 39 people, or 30%, do not. And then 81 people, or 62%, said that you are successfully transitioning people out of nursing homes. So amazing. 23 people, or 18%, said we are trying to transition people out of nursing homes, but not successfully yet. And 26 or 20% said we are not currently transitioning, but we want to. Just thought that was some interesting info for you all. The last thing that I just wanted to mention, no, I lost it. There you go. We do have another peer support call next week. Next week's call is ILNet sponsored, and it will just be around COVID-19 and opening your offices or not, and CARES Act funding and how folks are spending that. So if that is something of interest, yeah, Frank, I will share those poll numbers with you. I'll throw them up on the website as well with all the resources. And with that, I want to say I sincerely appreciate all the hard work you are doing on the ground. And we really appreciate you coming here and sharing with everybody else. I think, you know, with community, we are stronger. And so, you know, keep watching for more announcements, and we will try to get this stuff out to you as soon as we can. And with that, I appreciate you all, and we'll see you again soon.
Oh.